Hello and welcome to my channel. I am feeling very called to be doing a series of videos that talk about the unique sensory profiles of neurodivergent people as part of my community, Roots of Consciousness, integrating spiritual awakening with neurodivergence. As an ADHD woman, and a guide, an ally, a psychotherapist, a trainer, supervisor, here to support, quite passionate, specifically women and mums who are going through a deep spiritual transformation, whilst also being neurodivergent and perhaps having neurodivergent kids. As my own autism is unraveling the last year, I'd say more so, and becoming so much more acutely aware of my own internal world based on my own sensory profile. It's just fascinating to become aware for me, for my family, but also to share all of this stream of data and information, especially when you have had an opening yourself into a glimpse of deeper states of reality, which can destabilize the system. So because I've been in experiences of groups, not for a long time, I have to say, in spiritual communities, and I shared that I feel a wonder, contemplate if my neurodivergence is enhancing or getting in the way of my spiritual journey. And only to be told that this is just a story. It's not helped me. And so this is my repairing for that, for any of you who might be neurodivergent. So I want to talk today about your own sensory profile. And this has sent me into an even deeper and acute awareness of my own inner sensory world. So people talk about senses. What senses have we got? And we can talk about sight, sound, touch, taste, hearing, and the other systems of part of our sensory profile that not many people perhaps are aware is interoception, proprioception, and vestibular. Interoception is our internal mechanism and our internal clock of registering in the moment sensations such as tiredness, hunger, pain, heat, need for a wee, need to go to the toilet. I don't know about you, but sometimes, especially if I am in my hyper-focused state, that registration just goes off. Proprioception is the sensation and the awareness of where our body is in relation to space. And that will be feedback from our joints and muscles. And that awareness, and it's said a lot of children, I know that from my son, who lies in bed and he will say to me, I'm scared. So for a while I couldn't understand that until I began to learn a bit more about neurodivergence and figure out that the reason why he's scared is because when he lies down in the dark, he's losing a sense of spacious awareness where his body beginning and ends in space. So that can be like almost an opening, we could say. Somebody who might have a spiritual opening and an awakening where you feel yourself everywhere, right? Which is my hypothesis, that neurodivergent people are really by default operating in that liminal place, which is why it's so important to have an integrated awakening into this flesh and bones so that we feel more authentically us. Now, neurodivergence is a brain wiring that may or not science show that it shifts in time. It's just fascinating to hear the journeys. And vestibular is our own internal balance system. Where are we in terms of a vertical and a horizontal plane? And all of this have been challenged with my own journey of spiritual awakening. Okay, so this is an invitation for you to begin to notice how small or big is your cup of need. So I know for myself, for example, sight and sound, they're quite big buckets. This is why I'm doing these videos. It's part of my sensory need for sound and voice, and is also part of my ways of my brain of processing reality and processing. And also it's part of grace that's working through me. So it's all together. The more we become heightened aware of our own unique sensory profiles, the more we create the pathways for our soul to manifest and step into her dharma and her purpose with life. The three profiles within our senses is we either need a lot of that stimuli around touch, for example, or around sight, so we are sensory seeker, or we don't want much of that. We want as much as a reduction of this stimulation of the different senses, so we are sensory avoidant. Yeah, so for example, I am very sensory seeker. I love to cuddle my kids, to cuddle my husband. I like this tactile. It helps me feel regulated. It helps me, my proprioception, to get a sense of where I am in space in relation with other people. It gives me a sense of love, which is my and intimacy, which is my way, my love language. Yep, massage, that's why I love massages. My child, my son, sometimes doesn't want that. There may be people that don't want hugs or to be touched. Okay, so it's sensory seeker, sensory avoider, or sensory challenged, which is the senses that we're not aware that we have. So we're challenged in our perception and awareness of these senses. And that is really important to become, because our nervous systems will become even more heightened with the spiritual opening. So unless we know our default, and if you have had an opening so far, that's okay. You can still just make a diagram and begin to really register and record how much is doing you good or not. So I began wearing ear defenders lately because I cannot anymore mask, essentially, and keep arriving at very busy places. That ebbs and flows for me, and I suspect it ebbs and flows for everybody. When I am in a state of deeper flow, merged with the ground of being, I'm not much bothered about it, for example. And we can, as the stages of awakening kind of deepen and integration deepens in that state of presence, we can at will choose where we want to be, which is very freeing. But until we arrive at that place of integration, it's so important to become aware of these senses. Because what I'm seeing from people who come and work through me is that they unintentionally, because they have lacked this awareness, they violate themselves. Don't we all? Society is teaching us not to listen to the signals of our bodies. And that embodiment, that dialogue with this internal intelligence that runs through us, that runs whole life, the whole creation, and which is its currency, it's flashing and it's orienting our body in space and time, is so wise and intelligent, and we keep dismissing it through the conditioned programming, our mind, our belief systems, our traumas that can veil that knowing, which is the times where our bodies have to scream even louder to get attention from us. So how big or small is your cup, and how do you meet that need? You know, have you been one of these people that, for example, taste is a tricky one, because it could be the texture of foods, or it could be the sensations. So for example, chewing on the lid of pans, or sipping coffee and tea. That's a very specific one for me, you know, gives me a sense of soothing and regulation. Why I'm sharing all of this is because a lot of neurodivergent people, and myself included, could never sit and do meditation for hours and hours and hours. But when I began introducing movement and dancing organically, my body was leading me to just, I can enter a state of flow very quickly. I drop into that singularity point very quickly. And there's no point to try and fit a mold, get the mold to fit you. Get the practice, whatever practices that you're doing, fit your own unique sensory profile and your needs. And I can say a lot more about practices and how to adapt them and to, but you know, from the moment that I will wake up in the morning to the night, depending on how much I've slept, how much I have eaten, how regulated I feel, all of these senses will require different things. So the more we get to know our profiles and how they shift and adjust and move, the more freedom and flexibility we have to decide what is that we need in the moment. Yeah. And that is called our sensory stream and flow of sensory data. So, for example, and transitions, I've spoken in another video about transitions. If you have had a very big opening and you're trying to integrate, it's really important that you're doing that by integrating what your senses, essentially, and your nervous system can tolerate. And quite often, it might not necessarily be more meditation retreats and more meditation practice. It could be so much more simpler, embodied, fleshed stuff, like having more ice baths or ice showers or hot showers, walking barefoot, having massages, doing running or walking, dancing, putting music, steaming, let your body shake. You know, this tray, for example, is lovely. I've used that before and it's been really helpful. I tend to have massages for me and dancing. I dance quite a lot. There's a lot of high current energy through this body and also in my children. So we all have our own unique sensory needs. So putting the music on and having dance gigs, we used to have that every Thursday evening, might be one way of meeting that need. Or, I don't know, going under your duvet and have all sensory information into a 0 point to replenish. There's no shame in any of this. The more you claim your neurodivergence, and I say that to you so that I can hear it even deeper for me, is better to integrate the awakening and the opening that you may have had. And you will notice that I don't even go to the openings yet to make the associations, because I want to start from a very earthly, grounded, fleshed base first. Then we can be everywhere. The more we occupy this flesh, from a more grounded perspective, we can open to the galaxies. So if you have any more questions, let me know and I can prepare videos in response to your questions. Thank you for your time.